Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. As Janice said, my name's Tom, and I represent Holland America in Western Canada. So it's a real pleasure to be here and share some updates on Holland America, hopefully give you some ideas of sailings to perhaps book in the future, some things to dream of, some destinations to dream of. Before we get into all that good stuff, I do want to touch on some very, very important things. First off, oh, by the way, that's my high school picture, I should say. That I decided to share with you in case you couldn't see what I look like. But important things to share, and that is what we're doing in terms of our return to sail and the safety protocols we are enacting. We are working around the clock with organizations like the CDC, WHO, various maritime authorities and jurisdictions to finalize these health and safety protocols and procedures. And as they are ratified and confirmed, we will be sharing them with you. You can actually find a page that details these on our website, the Holland America website. Also, your Expedia Cruises consultant will always have the updated version of this, the latest updates. You won't find pages and pages. That's not what we're going to do. We don't want to bombard you with information that we're going to have to retract or redact or contradict. We can give you the concrete information as we get it, as we get closer to that return to sail that I know everyone is looking forward to so much. It's always a real pleasure for me to connect with like-minded travelers and like-minded cruisers like yourselves, like-minded Holland America cruisers. It's a cruise line that is so close to my heart. I've worked for Holland America for many years, both at sea and on land. I met my wife on board a Holland America Line ship. We named our kids after Holland America Line ships. Little Noordam is 4 and Zuiderdam is almost 7. That's not true, I should say. We just call them the damn kids. Ba-dum. Do you like that one, guys? That's joke number 1 of the evening. Okay, you've got to keep counting. But in all seriousness, it's such a fantastic brand. I know there's so many followers of Holland America, and tonight on our call, I understand we have folks who have cruised Holland America a great deal, quite regularly. Some folks who have cruised Holland America, but perhaps not that recently, and some who've never cruised Holland America at all. So hopefully there's something for all of you in the next half an hour or so. And I think the best place to start is to give an overview of really what Holland America is. Let's kind of start from the beginning. So Holland America in a nutshell is for explorers, foodies, and music lovers. That's it. If you're any one of those 3 things to varying degrees, we are perfect for you. And we don't have things like water slides, go-karts, roller coasters, ice rinks. There's a market for that stuff, but there's a growing market of folks who aren't looking for that. Perhaps they've been there, done that, and now they want a little bit more of a touch of luxury, a bit more spacious surroundings. They want to explore more, or perhaps they've only sailed on small ships and they want a bit more space and a bit more variety, but they don't want those crowds and gimmicks. So that's where Holland America really comes into its own. But to kind of encapsulate the experience, we talk about those 3 things: explorers, foodies, music lovers, also the service and the ships themselves, because the Holland America ships, there's something special about them. I mean, you only have to see one and it just looks classic. That beautiful classic kind of with a modern twist style of Holland America, the dark blue hulls, the wraparound teak decks, and the size. Really, we're a mid-sized cruise line, but we use the word perfectly sized because there are other cruise lines that used to call themselves mid-sized and sometimes still do, but they've grown so much they have 3,600 guests or more on board. We're not that big. Our average guest count is around 2,000. Our ships are much smaller. So we prefer to say perfectly sized because we have all those wonderful spacious areas on board. But I really enjoy pointing out the unique features. Like if you look at this picture here, you'll notice something just on the left-hand side, that sliding roof, it's called a magradome. We're able to close off our Lido pool roof because we sail 365 days a year all across the globe. So when there's inclement weather and it's raining outside, we can just close over that pool area and everyone can still enjoy the pool and the pool area and relax in that space. Where with other cruise lines, they don't have that. If it rains, everyone goes down inside and makes it more crowded down below. So That's just one of these many unique features of Holland America. But there's so much going on underneath the hood, so many aspects to the activities and fun on board. I'm not going to touch on all of it, but we might come across some of it over the next course of the next kind of 30 minutes or so. In terms of who sails these days on Holland America, who's cruising on Holland America, we attract guests across the entire cruise spectrum, from anniversary couples, you know, sisters, reunions, girls getaway cruises, family, multi-generational groups. We have a lot of these, especially in Alaska, where it's the grandparents, the grandkids, the aunts, the uncles, everyone comes along. We'll have kids on board. We've got a fantastic kids club. Often when I'm on ship, I'll hear guests say to me, where are all these kids I keep hearing about? We keep them upstairs, locked upstairs in, well, not locked, we keep them upstairs in Club Hal. But let's say on a regular Alaska cruise, you may get 100, perhaps peak season 200 kids. As a parent myself, I would rather my child be one of 200, not 2,000 kids on board. So really there's something for all types of cruisers with Holland America, but the common themes are, as I mentioned, explorers. What we mean by that is we've got a depth and breadth of kind of itineraries that not many cruise lines have. We've got so many itineraries and so many ports that we visit. It's a lot of variety and a lot of opportunity in a nutshell. And we've been doing it for almost 150 years. So that's a long time. We've got a foundation and a relationship with so many ports around the globe that plays out in the itineraries, where we get first billing in certain areas to dock and areas to cruise, and that experience and know-how. We've been doing it a long time, so we know how to immerse you, our guests, in a destination authentically. Foodies, I mentioned the term foodies, and everyone's a foodie, aren't they, to varying degrees. We all like our food, but I think we've always been known as a cruise line for foodies for a couple of reasons, but primarily it's something, again, I think Holland America occupies a kind of a unique space, kind of a fine balance, because if you look out there in the industry today, you tend to see one of two things: either very small ships that have just one dining room option and then perhaps one alternate or one casual option, or on the other end of the spectrum, mega ships where it's a dining room with the same menu every day and then 15 paid options that you need to eat in. If you don't want to eat in that dining room. With Holland America, we've got the classic dining room experience, whether you're open seating or fixed seating, where the menu rotates and is fresh every day, different menus every day, every mealtime. And then we also have that kind of 3, 4, or 5 specialty options for those special evenings to try something a little bit different in an exclusive venue. So it's the perfect balance. And we don't partner with just one kind of celebrity chef. We've got a team of 8 experts who are world-renowned in each of their disciplines, Michelin star chefs in many cases. You might have seen some of them on the Food Network, and they inject their energy and creativity into our menus. So that's why we keep it so fresh. Something that we started doing over the past few years, this really came out of folks who had gone over to cruise river. When river cruising kind of boomed about 10, 15 years ago, some folks had gone over to river cruising and come back to ocean, because obviously with ocean cruising, there's just so many more places you can explore. And when they came back, they kind of shared with us that they want to have more of that up close and personal experience in the port, in the ports of call, to break bread with locals, to see locals use traditional recipes, family recipes with locally sourced ingredients, and have that up close and personal culinary experience. And that's what we do, not just in places like Europe and Asia, which probably spring to mind with culinary. Even in places like Alaska, we've got some awesome food and wine tours in places like Juneau, where you get to visit the kitchens and top chefs in Juneau and kind of get that VIP tour, sample and tasting. In Ketchikan, you can go out and see how the oysters are cultivated and harvest them and try them, how the kelp is harvested and cultivated. So some really cool things across kind of our entire scope of itineraries. The other thing I mentioned was music. Now, this is something that we did a couple of years ago. We shook things up, turned the industry on its head, because we said, let's kind of bring music into one area of the ship, not super close together, but within walking distance. We'll call it Music Walk, and have purpose-built music venues rather than just lounges where the same musicians hop between the different lounges, purpose-built venues for professional musicians at the top of their game, masters of their craft in each genre of music, to play almost like individual shows in each one of these lounges. So we have BB King's Blues Club. They're an 8-piece band who pass through Beale Street, Memphis. That's how they kind of get their accreditation. And they get the whole crowd on their feet. They're playing everything from the Rolling Stones, Chuck Berry, to Beyonce and Bruno Mars, whatever gets the crowd on their feet. Then you've got Billboard on Board. This is where we took the piano bar concept and we built it out into a bigger lounge where there's 2 piano entertainers. So more fun, more laughs, more sing along, kind of a mixing up the styles. And it's this wonderful open plan lounge. And I see folks there every cruise I'm on. They'll check it out on the first night. I see them there for every set, night after night after night. And then Lincoln Center. This is our classical ensemble. And this lounge is one of my favorites. They are all from Lincoln Center, the #1 institution in North America for classically trained musicians. And there's nothing I like more than, after coming back from a day out in port, you know, relaxing, kind of refreshing, then coming down before dinner to Lincoln Center to be there for one of their sets. Maybe grab a refreshment on the way and sit there and just immerse yourself in that sound and their incredible ability. It's almost meditative. It just washes over you. Just the perfect way to kind of break up the day. So yeah, awesome music on board. I'm going to touch on that other one, Rolling Stone Rock Room, in a little while. I'll tell you about that. Last thing I want to mention before we look at those itineraries is the service. It's not just in the hospitality industry that Holland America is recognized, but also other industries often name check Holland America as an exemplary or great example of service. All cruise ships, all cruise lines have great service, but Holland America does have its name checked in many other sectors, in many other trades, in terms of how to execute great service. For me, having spent so much time on board, and I'm sure for you, if you've sailed Holland America, you'll agree, for me, it really comes down to our amazing crew members in the culinary department, in the housekeeping department and beverage team. They win hearts and minds every cruise, and are the backbone of our company. So for me, it's them. So these are the damn ships, our beautiful 11 sisters, the stunning ships of Holland America. I don't have time to talk about all of them. I would love to, but I don't. So I'm going to talk about one. We've got a brand new ship, a brand new baby on the way, Rotterdam. She is Rotterdam number 7. And she will become the flagship when she's launched later this year. So it's a big deal for us. So she will be the 87th ship to sail under the Holland America Line flag. A real milestone. We're super excited. And we're not building mega ships. She's still just under 100,000 tons. Most of those other lines have built ships, you know, 1.5 times bigger, or way over 100,000 tons many years ago. We still keep the size down, keep the numbers down. 2,600 guests maximum. So Holland America through and through. She's the 3rd of the Pinnacle class sisters, a class of ship that's been taken to heart by so many of our mariners. So I'll give you a quick teaser of what to expect. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the ship itself, but something really excited, something I'm really excited about for later this year. An absolutely stunning ship. She is on schedule, just in case you're thinking, well, what's happening? Is she, she's under construction. Is she going to be delivered in time? She is actually ahead of schedule. So we are really looking forward to her debut. This is her currently being fitted out in the Fincantieri shipyards in Mestre, just outside of Venice. So we're super excited. So we'll touch on some of her itineraries. I've just picked a few choice areas to talk about this evening. Some areas that I'm hearing more and more stories of folks like yourselves planning for in 2022. We're really just going to talk about 2022 and perhaps a little bit beyond, because that seems to be where everyone's thinking, right? That's where everyone's kind of focus is at the moment. So just a couple of areas. Firstly, Europe. With Holland America and Europe, there's something special. Again, I experienced it myself, working and living on board ships, sailing in Europe for many years. And I think it's in Holland America's DNA. There's something that is unmatched out there, and that is we have that 150-year history that I mentioned, those deep roots to Europe that are alive and well today when it comes to relationships with ports. They've been welcoming Holland America ships for decades upon decades upon decades. So we have those true, authentic Europe ties, but we've had a North America headquarters for the last 40 years. So we have this North American mindset. We know how to deliver a product for the North American guest. If you look around there in the cruise industry, that you don't really see that. It's either one side or the other. So we occupy this wonderful middle ground. And sailing with Holland America in Europe, I think it's like when you visit a friend or a family member who's moved to a different city or overseas, and you don't know that town or city, but you go to visit and they give you the inside track. They show you around and you feel like you're experiencing it through a local's eyes. That's what it's like to sail Europe with Holland America, because we've been doing it for so long. So many cool ports and so many fantastic ports on the agenda for 2022. I could talk about so many of them. We don't have time. One just pops out here from these slides. Bruges. You'll find this on some of those Northern Europe itineraries and transatlantics. What a fabulous port! If you haven't visited, the port is Zeebrugge, for the city of Bruges or Brussels, but I would head to Bruges if I was you. When I see that picture and I see the beautiful architecture and the canals, I just think of strolling along, the smell of all that fresh chocolate, the moulin frites, the Belgian Trappist lagers. Oh, the feast for the senses. I just love it. And that's what Europe's all about, the feast for the senses. Beautiful Bergen in Norway, that just kind of postcard perfect. The Blue Lagoon in Iceland. So many of these kind of feature on these itineraries. I'll give you just a flavor of some of them. This is a very cool one. It's called Northern Isles, and we do it a few times within the season. This is on that brand new ship, Rotterdam, by the way. Sails from Amsterdam. You've got the fjords, Norwegian fjords. Then you've got 3 days in Iceland, including that overnight in Reykjavik. The Shetland Islands, so you can explore the Neolithic remains, those Shetland ponies in their natural environment. Loch Ness via Invergordon, Edinburgh, a really cool itinerary that covers so much. And this is something I want you to remember to ask the Expedia Cruises team about. It can be combined with the sailing that comes after it or before. We orchestrate our season so we don't repeat one cruise immediately after another. So you can add on to this things like the Baltic or the Norwegian fjords. You can make it a 28-day, 24-day. You can put 2 cruises together, or your Expedia Cruises consultant can do it for you. And when you do that, we give you around about a 10% price break, and you get this wonderful extended Europe vacation. So look out for those opportunities. I'll show you an example in just a second. Another fabulous itinerary, again on the new ship Rotterdam, the Norwegian fjords. Just spellbinding, that magnificent beauty. And doesn't a Holland America ship just look the part in this part of the world? Absolutely incredible. I think it would, when you're in the Norwegian fjords, it wouldn't quite be the same if you were having that moment, taking in the emotion and the gravity of it all. If you had to kind of look over the top of a go-kart track or a roller coaster, it wouldn't feel the same, right? And Holland America ships actually have allowances in these ports, many of these ports in the Norwegian fjords, to visit parts of the Norwegian fjords where other cruise lines and other ships sometimes do not, because of us meeting environmental requirements and standards. So we're really proud to be part of that progress and be allowed to sail to those parts of the world. But if you haven't been to Northern Europe before, the best place to start is the Baltic, hands down, because it's that perfect mix of everything, a little bit like the way the Mediterranean cruises look. You've got that incredible mix of so much art, culture, history, languages, cuisine, all in one itinerary. It's kind of busy, quite fast paced, but relaxing at the same time, has this wonderful feel. You've got that classic overnight stay in St. Petersburg, where you can visit the Hermitage, the Church of the Spilt Blood, St. Catherine's Palace, Warnemünde for those Cold War landmarks, Checkpoint Charlie, medieval Tallinn in Estonia. So many cool ports, and we do this multiple times in the season. There's lots of Baltic opportunities, but I wanted to show you this one because it precedes a very, very special voyage that's happening in 2022, and that's this one right here. Take a look at this. It's a special 150th anniversary transatlantic. We are creating or recreating to the very day, the exact same length, the same sailing of the very first Holland America ship on its very first sailing, Rotterdam 1. We are sailing 15th of October next year. It's going to be truly spectacular. Mariners will come from far and wide. It's going to be something so exciting, something folks will talk about for many years after. You can be on that voyage a real big celebration. And as I mentioned, you can combine it with that Baltic cruise we just saw. And you get that 10% price break. You make it a longer sailing. So you do your Baltic cruise and then head out on that magnificent transatlantic. So something different. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant about that, and they will show you how it's done. I do want to make honorable mention of one ship in particular, Volendam, that's one of the two smallest ships in the fleet, only 1,400 guests. We are doing something special with her. We've set her on her own mission. She's doing the Voyages of Distinction. She will not repeat the same sailing twice within the season. She's going off the beaten track, going to lesser known ports, ports where smaller ships, where only smaller ships can visit. She's cruising things like the Gironde estuary in Bordeaux. So you can visit Bordeaux, have those days exploring the vineyards, and then sail out of Bordeaux, sipping some Bordeaux. She's cruising around the British Isles. She visits ports like Dublin, which is the biggest city in the world. I'm sure most of you knew that. You savvy travelers, the biggest city in the world, Dublin, right? Because it keeps doubling and doubling and doubling. Boom. That's joke number 2. Okay, are you keeping count? I hope so. 2 more in Europe, in Northern Europe. The Voyage of the Vikings and the Viking Passage. Voyage of the Vikings is almost sold out for 2022, practically sold out. There's a little bit of space. You can wait list. We're getting ready to launch it for 2023 very soon. And the reason it sells out so quickly is you can cruise Boston round trip to Rotterdam, exploring Northern Europe, Greenland, Iceland, the British Isles, Norwegian fjords, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, round trip out of Boston. It's a Holland America classic through and through. And then another option is to sail the Viking Passage, which is just the one leg, Copenhagen to Boston. This can be combined with the Baltic that happens before. So you could sail Northern Europe, then do that crossing. Both very, very popular voyages. Okay, let's shoot down to the Mediterranean. If any of you haven't had your dinner yet, I do apologize, because this is going to make you hungry when you see this slide. But that is the reason why so many folks go to the Mediterranean time and time again. It's like the onion, right? You know that old cliche, you keep peeling the layers, you find more discoveries, you go back to favorite ports, pick up new ports, new experiences. I love the Mediterranean. I can go back time and time and time again. But we've got some classics we're bringing back, some very interesting voyages for 2022, different ports. We're returning to Istanbul. We have not sailed to Istanbul for about 8, 9, maybe 10 years. No cruise lines, none of the major cruise lines have, but we're now cruising there again. It is a city that, as they say, is so nice they had to name it twice. A true spectacle. It takes on a whole perspective by night, kind of compared to the day. You can visit the Hagia Sophia, Blue Mosque, the Topkapi Palace, the Komkapi district, cruise the Bosphorus. It's a magical place, and that is on many itineraries. I'm going to show you a couple of those in a second, but we will cruise often round trip out of Venice, sometimes Athens, Barcelona, down to the Holy Lands as well. Some very cool cruises from Barcelona to Venice or reverse. But these 2 12-day cruises, which can be combined, you can make a 24-day cruise out of these 2. It's one of my favorites. It's a classic. So think of it as 2 separates, but also a 24 where you get that 10% price break. On the left-hand side, that glitzy, glamorous end of the Mediterranean, Barcelona into Venice, with the Western Mediterranean. And when we sail into Venice, that's an overnight stay at the end. So you get that extra day in Venice. So that means it takes out your need for a hotel if you're cruising in or out of Venice, because we give you that overnight stay. And then on the right-hand side, again, 2 days in Venice to begin with, and then we do the beautiful Greek islands with those 2 days in Istanbul. And if you take this as 24 days, what that allows you to do is get 2 overnight stays in Venice in the middle, almost 3 days in Venice. So such great value, one of my favorites, always popular. And then remember that slightly smaller ship, Volendam, that's on her she's kind of going to be unique unto herself, doing her own thing in the Mediterranean. She's got some cool things on the agenda in the Mediterranean, including Egypt. Major cruise lines haven't been cruising to Egypt for, again, about 6, 7, 8 years, a little bit more even in many cases. We've got it back with the Volendam sailing into Cairo, Alexandria for Cairo, for those Pyramids of Giza tours, and so on and so forth. We really wind the clock back on the Mediterranean to get away from the crowds, give a different flavor of the Mediterranean. Okay, switching gears to Alaska. Now, we always say we are Alaska. We've been cruising and operating there for, since before Alaska was even a state. We'll have, not just out of Seattle, we'll cruise from Vancouver, and in some years we'll have half of our fleet sailing out of Vancouver up to Alaska. No other major cruise line has, or any cruise line has, that kind of presence and that commitment to the Vancouver market. I think that's why we have so many followers and so many dedicated cruisers with Holland America from BC and Western Canada, because of this presence that we've had for such a long time. It's the programming on board, for one thing. We've been doing it for so long. We have the expertise. We win awards year in and year out. But aside from this programming and the itineraries themselves, a lot of it has to do with that extra time we spend in places like Glacier Bay. You may have heard us talk about this before. We talk about the fact we have so many permits. We get twice as many Glacier Bay permits as the next cruise line. But what that means, to kind of give you an example and make it hopefully make it more understandable, is if you had a choice of three cruise lines offering the same itinerary, one spent the full day in a particular port, one only spent 2 hours in that particular port, and one didn't visit that port at all. That's what it's like with Glacier Bay with Holland America. We give you the full day of exploration, the full day to have multiple glacier viewings and wildlife sighting opportunities, where other cruise lines will either not visit at all, or they'll go for their 1 or 2 hour glacier view and then back out to the Gulf. And you're paying for that day. That's, paying so many dollars per day. It gives you great value to spend that full day in Glacier Bay rather than being back out at sea. So glacier viewing, as you saw right behind Janice when she was introducing our session this evening, glacier viewing really comes into its own with Holland America. We just give you so much more and so many more opportunities. Another big part of Alaska in 2022 is something exciting. That's why these two little fellas are getting very excited and giving us a round of applause, is the fact that Koningsdam, sister to that brand new ship Rotterdam, one of our new Pinnacle class ships, is coming to Vancouver to be our Saturday ship. As many of you know, we have a ship that usually sails round trip every Saturday up to Alaska and back, and it's going to be Koningsdam in 2022. King being Koning in Dutch, that's why she's Koningsdam, or that's why we call Koningsdam the King, is one of the Pinnacle class ships. So sister to the Rotterdam, beautiful ship. The first time one of these Pinnacle class ships has ever been to the West Coast, and we're so fortunate to have her sail out of Vancouver up the Inside Passage, doing that full day in Glacier Bay. And we get top billing in places like Juneau because of our commitment to Alaska, and we have so many ships, the largest fleet in Alaska. That means in almost all cases we'll be docked kind of in the premium berth downtown in Juneau, berths 1 and 2, so you can step straight out into the square. Other cruise lines will be, half a click down the way, berths 3 and 4 further out, so you have to walk kind of 10-15 minutes or get a shuttle or a taxi. Other cruise lines out by the container port, we're right there. It gives you more time in port, much more accessible. So many great reasons to think about planning an Alaska trip in 2022 on the beautiful Koningsdam. And remember, there was that other lounge. I said I'll tell you about it later. The Koningsdam and Rotterdam, these Pinnacle class ships, have in addition to those other lounges, they have the Rolling Stone Rock Room, which we have in partnership with Rolling Stone magazine. And this lounge, in this lounge, they're playing classic 70s, 80s, or 60s, 70s, 80s rock. So think Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Aerosmith. You kind of get the picture. Just the classics, jamming every night. Just another awesome lounge to experience on board. Another thing you can experience on one of these Pinnacle class ships is the Grand Dutch Cafe. It's our second coffee shop on board. Only on these ships. It's an authentic Dutch coffee shop. A beautiful area where you look out on kind of the hubbub of the atrium. It has a little kind of exterior viewing area too, but they're serving Dutch treats, crepes, pastries, Dutch lagers. They're serving things on Royal Delft earthenware. Absolutely beautiful venue, really fun venue, only on the Pinnacle class ships. The dining rooms are spectacular too. These beautiful sweeping open spaces, and I think with the mentality going forward, when we return to cruise, so many people thinking, well, should I be on a very small ship with fewer people? In that case, you do then have, when you go really small in terms of ship, then you've got those smaller, kind of lower ceilings. When you go big, 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 you've got the crowds. With a size of ship like a Holland America ship, you've got the spacious, open feel, to kind of to just give you that wonderful open feeling. You're not kind of squished into any spaces on board. So I did say at the beginning it was Europe, Alaska, and more. Let's quickly touch on the and more section. I promised I would touch on this. So on the left-hand side, let's go left to right. There's an opportunity in April 2022 to sail round-trip Vancouver to Hawaii, 18 days on that ship Koningsdam. The beautiful Koningsdam sailing to Hawaii for the first time out of Vancouver. A very cool opportunity for us in the Pacific Northwest. I should have mentioned, by the way, I'm coming to you live this evening from North Vancouver, maybe just down the road from some of you. I'm not in Seattle in our head office, by the way, just in case you wondered. So I might be on that ship with you because it's so close to home. And then the one in the middle, Vancouver, finishing in San Diego, the South Pacific, Tales of the South Pacific, 50 days, what a bucket list sailing. And then a 35-day option if you want to sail out of San Diego. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant if you're interested in any of these. Another cool West Coast option, San Diego down to Sydney. What we would call kind of a repositioning, a Pacific crossing, across the international date line, cross the equator. Once that cruise gets to Sydney, before we get into that regular cycle of South Australia sailings, we will be sailing the Australia circumnavigation. It sells out every time at a fast pace. It's a true bucket list around Australia. Parts of Australia you wouldn't normally get to on a cruise. Also Indonesia, some very cool parts of Indonesia like Komodo Island. So these two can be put together. As I mentioned before, a collector's voyage for you. You can make it a 69-day sailing. So with a 10% price break. So something very cool to consider. And there's another sister to those Pinnacle class ships. We talked about Rotterdam. We talked about Koningsdam. Their third sister, the middle child of these Pinnacle class ships, the gorgeous new Statendam, is coming to the east coast of Canada, not just to do the 8-day Canada-New England sailings, but also 10 days, including Newfoundland, and this awesome 24-day sailing all the way up to Iceland, and then hitting Greenland and Newfoundland on August 3rd. What a sailing. I know this has been so popular since we launched it. My inbox is blowing up on a daily basis with travel advisors contacting me, telling me about their clients, who are interested in this. So it's going to be so popular. And a great opportunity to sail out of North America and do something so cool. And then I must finish by talking about the big one. Now, it's not true, okay? It is not true. It's a myth that you gain £1 for every day you're on board ship. Okay, if you did, you'd be in big trouble. But in all seriousness, what a voyage. This is the one so many folks work towards, over the years. Your graduation cruise, you've been cruising so many years, going from 7-day, 10-day, 20-day, 30-day. It's the big one. It's popular each and every year. They sell out. This is an incredible voyage in 2023. So much excitement. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant if you're interested in these, or perhaps looking at taking a segment. We have them each and every January. There's also a Grand South America, and also in the fall, the Grand Africa. We've got the 2022 Grand Africa virtually sold out right now, but there's going to be a 2023 hopefully soon. What a way to cruise to a very special part of the world, round trip out of North America. So I'm going to wrap up now. I just want to let you know that there's some great programs in place for peace of mind. This one currently runs to the end of March. If you book a cruise, and this is for kind of 2021 cruises at the moment, but if you book a cruise, you get peace of mind to cancel up to 30 days with an FCC, a future cruise credit, I should say, issue. So you've got that peace of mind. Also, we have a fabulous promotion right now. It's called Cruise Now, Save Later. And this applies to pretty much everything we've been talking about. Not the grand voyages. They have the World Cruise. They have their own set of specials, but pretty much everything else we've talked about this evening, Europe, Alaska, Canada, New England, those exotic sailings, you will get, if you book by the end of the month, or you want to lock something in soon, you will get the beverages included, the gratuities included, the dining package. If you're in a suite, you get the internet included. And it combines with what your Expedia Cruises consultant will book you on in many cases, and that is something called an Expedia exclusive stateroom, which means Expedia Cruises are able to leverage their power and economy of scale and access blocks of space, groups, multiple cabins, multiple staterooms. And when they do that, we pass on value and savings to them and amenities to them for them to pass on to you. That's why you're always better in a better position booking through Expedia Cruises rather than booking directly with Holland America. You're always going to get a better deal that way. So you'll be able to kind of double up, double dip on our benefits, their benefits. And if you book in the next week or so, you'll get a triple dip. Those 5 lovely people you saw at the start, I think actually, no, sorry, 6 lovely people you saw at the very beginning, that photo of all of the owners and managers of the Expedia Cruises centers that are taking part this evening. We all have kind of put our kind of heads together and come up with an offer for you to take advantage of in addition to those other benefits, and that is some extra shipboard credit, spending money on board for your sailing, whichever sailing you choose. So it combines with that promotion that I mentioned. So if you are thinking of locking something in, getting something on the books, something for the back burner in 2022, do speak with the team this coming week, because we do have these great amenities. But in any case, reach out to the Expedia Cruises team. If you don't have a consultant you work with, give them a call, drop them an email, and they will put you in touch with one of their great consultants. And it's not just the fact they can source those fantastic deals for Holland America and other cruise lines, and deals you wouldn't be able to access yourself. It's not just that. They are experts. They have resources at their fingertips that you wouldn't be able to access, and they can make things easier for you. They are also your advocate, and they can be your savior, because as we've seen, even in a normal year, things can happen. Cruises, flights can get deviated, plans change. So it's always good to know, if while you're traveling, while you're at home, wherever you are, that you have the phone number, and they're just one phone call or an email away, a friend and an advocate for you with your travel plans in your local community, who has your back, who can take care of things for you and give you great deals to boot. So it's a true win-win. So with that, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box. I should have mentioned that at the start. I think Janice did mention that. If you have questions, type them into the chat. If we've got time in a minute, we will answer some of those questions and help you out with those. If not, we can always, your Expedia Cruises consultant can always connect with you afterwards. So I'm going to hand back over to Janice here. I think we've got a couple of other slides.
Thanks, Tom. That was just a terrific presentation, and those fabulous itineraries. I myself, I don't know about you, but I wrote down 3. I love that we're going back into Istanbul, because that's one of my favorite cities. But then I was on the 35-day Hawaii, Tahiti, Marquesas, because that sounds stunning. And actually, after this whole pandemic, I think that's probably where I want to head. And then the other one was the 24-day Canada, New England, Iceland. Like, wow, that's such a hot destination right now. So thank you for all those lovely things, as well as that Grand Africa that caught my eye a few weeks ago too. So that would be terrific, sailing with a small flight to Lauderdale and back, and then 71 days around the, oh, that would just be amazing. So I don't know about all of you, but there's definitely some food for thought this evening with what Holland America has presented. And we thank Tom so much for joining us, and we will get to some questions I see coming in the chat. Just as Expedia Cruises, I just want to talk quickly about trip insurance rather. And what we do know is that travel insurance will be the most important piece and sought after component of the travel purchase. We just want to make sure that you are in the know. Talk with our licensed professionals. It's important that you do that moving forward, as things have changed dramatically, and there's lots of different opinions and things that are being written about insurance. So please make sure you talk to a licensed professional about that, and not just an 800 number. Just to mention our Expedia cruises, we're all open. We are here for all your travel needs. We're answering questions, we're booking staycations, and of course your international travel, in addition to ensuring you're aware of all the new processes while we're traveling in our new world, or when we are able to travel in this new world. Reach out to our vacation consultants to book a day at a time to come in. Most of us have appointments. If you are more comfortable from home, we have this beautiful format called Zoom, and we can absolutely set up a Zoom call, and our consultants would love to do that with you. Our next virtual travel talk is on March the 9th, where we will have our special guest, Royal Caribbean. So all things travel, we are here for you. We're in your neighborhood, and on behalf of all of the owners, we thank you, and thank you so much for supporting local business.